Welcome, welcome. Hello, hello. How we all doing today? Welcome back to another live Wednesday here. We're midweek already. It feels like the week's moving fairly fast, in my opinion, given that obviously we're just a few days away from games, and we're playing the early game on Sunday, which is nice. We won't have to sit and stew on this Everton thing much longer because by tomorrow we're talking about the next week of football, and it's a holiday over here in the States as well tomorrow. So it will be rather quiet. I will have a video on PSR, the removal of PSR, the changing of the expenses, fully explained how much United can spend based on the changing in the rulings, the regulations, all of that. An estimate, obviously, in terms of how much they can spend, but a well-educated estimate, I should say, similar to the last ones that I've made on that subject, which will be very relevant to what we want to discuss today, which is, of course, United. We want to talk about transfers, talk about news, and I'm going to give you the straight facts on the situation. Well, my facts anyway, but at least what I know to be true to the best of my knowledge and all of that. So that's what we're going to get into today. Certainly, there is a lot to talk about. United are very much in the market for transfers this January, even though obviously they're maintaining a bit of quiet as to the commitment to do so as of yet. Obviously, I'm looking at it like, which one are we, they don't necessarily want to put all their cards on the table ahead of January about what they're doing, when, all of that. But we're definitely in the market for players in January, and it's expected to be where we can take advantage of certainly some opportunities. They're alive to it. But I will talk about a few things in particular on that front. And in addition, we had some decent reports that slightly went under the radar simply because of, obviously the game that happened on Monday, everything that happened on Monday, the result, all of that, the shouting, the the noise, the sky is falling, that we all do, that we all feel when United don't win football matches, and especially in the manner of the defeat on there. Certainly drown out a lot of the noise, because we got solid reporting from David Ornstein and such as well, pretty much confirming quite a few things that we have talked about in the past as well. So that's what we are going to get into. We're going to talk about a few specific subjects. We're going to talk about Joao Gomes again. We're going to talk about Carlos Baleba. We're going to talk about Njai and the wingback positions as well. We're going to talk about Ruben Amorim. We're going to talk about that first because there's basically nothing to talk about there. And we're going to talk about, there was one other thing. We'll get to it as well, of course, Anderson and Summer and things like that. And Ederson, thank you for that. Ozamrani. I have that actually pulled up to share, to discuss as well. Ederson too, because that is still continues to be an interesting one that we should certainly follow, or at least think about, because Ederson has, like Joao Gomes and like a few others, been on United's radar for some time and was certainly one of the players that we have considered signing even as recently as this summer. And his agent has said something rather interesting today, or at least it's come out today, and I think that's very, 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 very interesting. Let's start off with Amorim, and I'm going to try to not get completely derailed in the discussion about this. I gotta say, I find my comments always amusing after we lose games. There's a few people who always comment, always share their opinions. Either way, they disagree with me. It's all good. And then there are the people that will pipe up in comments nowhere for the last 6 weeks when United are doing well. And then in comments, they'll pipe up like, James, you're only speaking to tell people, you never talk about being wrong, or you want to tell people they're wrong and all of that and everything. I'm like, it's very ironic when those comments come out when you've been nowhere in sight for the last 6, 7, 8 weeks and you're only commenting on my takes and my personality and attacking my character when we lose, when it's convenient. I'm here. I'm there. I'm in front of you, giving my thoughts, my feelings. Win, lose, draw, good, bad. I'm always here. And I always face the music if I'm wrong on an opinion. No doubt about that. Many, many, many times, thousands of times, I will admit that I'm wrong on things. But with the subject of Ruben Amorim in general that people want to talk about, all I can tell you is he's here for the rest of the season. And that's why it's pointless to me. That's why it's not worth debating to me. He's here. He's not going anywhere. They're not sacking him. They're not looking at other managers. They're not talking about other managers. They're not recruiting other managers. They're not looking at it. They're not doing anything on it. It's not happening. There's nothing going on. It's an irrelevant thing to talk about. He's here. The management want to give him multiple windows to continue shaping this squad. They see what they see. They make the assessments that they've made. He's here. And he's staying. So you can spend all your energy getting yourselves upset, riled up about it, angry about it. It's not going to do anything, and there's literally no point discussing it. What is yet to be decided is what all of these players in the squad are capable of, who should stay, who should go, who's good enough, who's part of the plans. All of that is up in the air. That's still where we are at in the process of building this football team, and that is still the focus of management, of the executives, and of the club. Stay the course. See what the players can do. The fact of the matter is, what we see in terms of the inconsistencies, you can put it on the manager. That's fine if that's your opinion. But what it shows for the most part is just how volatile a lot of the squad is. The manager is what he is. He's got a job. He's got targets for this season. We're within 1 point of his target for the season, which is 6th. Okay? We're literally 1 point off of his target for the season, which is 6th. So no, management is not thinking it's a disaster. They looked at the start of the season. It's highly publicized. It's highly stated. His target is to get back into Europe. That's it. So as long as we're anywhere near that, the focus for them is not on him. And that's where we're at this point in time. And we're late enough in and we're deep enough in that there isn't a view either that it would be purposeful at all changing managers. And that's not it. So there's nothing to discuss about it. Okay, we're going to play the same system. We're going to play the same way we want to play. We're going to keep going forward the same way that we need to go forward. I think what games like Everton really, 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 really highlight, which they're certainly aware of and comes more into focus in terms of the long-term view from management as well, is just how shallow the team still is. It goes under the radar. It really does go under the radar, but when you think about it, the team that played against Everton had one outfield player different than a team that finished 8th and 15th in the last 2 seasons. Well, 15th, let's say. Let's not use the season before because there's some players that were there from the 8th season. But it's the only player that was there on the pitch against Everton, outfield player, not the goalkeeper, was Brian Mbeumo. That was it. One new player on the pitch from a team that finished 15th. All that really tells you is this team is still not good enough. Is it 15th level? No, of course not. 15th was certainly an underperformance. 15th was certainly a craziness and all of that. But it was still one outfield player from the team that finished 15th last year. That's the reality of what that team is. That's the reality of what that squad is. And I think that we're not going to get any apologies from Gary Neville. A lot of us wanted to see Joshua Zirkzee. We missed Benjamin Šeško massively. as an outlet, as a pressure release in all of the play that he did. We missed him massively. Cunha's gotten a lot of heat from seemingly fans too, over the last some months for not doing enough. We saw just how much we missed Cunha in that game as well, in my opinion, right? So we lose our front three and we go back to not being able to score goals. That's the first time we haven't, it was the first time practically this season that we've actually looked bereft of attack. And naturally, it's when we don't have attackers. It was very funny because it was like one of those things where, people were thinking like, we're not going to get better at attacking simply because we signed better attackers. But then we did, massively get better at scoring goals because we bought better attackers. Because of everything that they do and everything that they did, they put it together. We created a lot of chances over the course of the season and have scored a lot of goals, especially relative to last year. It's been a huge improvement. And as soon as those players we bought to upgrade the forward line are gone, we have the same problem. It's a personnel issue primarily. The manager aspect is, what ceiling does he have? We don't know. But it's certainly not a squad that's good enough, consistent enough, or deep enough to put in the performances we all want to see on a regular basis. That is what they want to correct, and that's what they need to continue correcting. That's all. And that's where it is. And I'll tell you the other part of it that's kind of funny on this is that never once in any of the post-match when we lose do I sit there and say, I'm certain that Amram is the right guy for the long term. Never once do I say that. I never once am I going to say that today. That Amram's the right guy for the future. That he's the right guy to win titles, that I'm sure of it. I don't fucking know. Nobody knows. But what I do know is it's very, very naive to think that you could bring in another manager mid-season yet again, and they're not going to get in the way of what we are trying to accomplish as a squad, holistically, as a whole with the club, and in terms of the rebuild. Because none of them that we've had have gotten rid of the players that he got rid of. None of them have accepted the recruitment department superseding his opinions and views as he has. None of the managers that we spoke with when we were looking at replacing Ten Hag would accept the role that was on offer, which was to be the head coach, which was how he was appointed officially when he was hired. They made massive demands in terms of what they wanted in the squad. They made massive demands for certain players. They made massive demands for profiles. They made massive demands for specific things that are not in the vein of how this club has to rebuild. So whether Amram is the right guy or not as a coach, I have no idea. But I'm telling you, what I am certain of is he's the right guy to rebuild the club. And we haven't done that. And it's not as easy as you'd think to do that. And if you start to sack a manager because they lose some games, when you start to sack a manager based on short-term results, when you've been preaching that it is a long-term project, your next manager coming in is only going to be focused on the short term, because otherwise they're going to lose their job too. And that is the complete wrong message to send. That's the view of management. That's how the club is being rebuilt. And that is the correct view for the long-term project that we're in. We have to finish rebuilding this team. We have to get where we need to be. We have to fix the squad. And that is going to happen irrespective of whether Ruben Amorim is the right guy for the next 5 years or not. Doesn't matter. It's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. It's a lot bigger than that. You know? A new manager isn't going to make what we have in this squad work, unfortunately. To what level? Don't know. You know, they feel that this squad is, as of the level of the squad, is about 6th. So if Ruben can get to about 6th, then he's done his job. He's gotten the squad to the level that they assess is the level of the squad. I would agree with that. I think 6th is right. I think if we were finishing in 9th or 10th again, that he would have underachieved with the level of the squad. A manager has to be judged against the value of the squad. That's all they have to be judged against. That's what they have to be measured against, is the value of the squad. You're not asking a manager to get 4th with the team that you think is 10th. That doesn't make any sense. That's asking them to, what did Ronaldo say? To do a Fatima, right? That's not what you're trying to do. So they've assessed the squad and said it's probably around 6th. That's what we think relative to the rest of the league. I think that's fair. When you look at this season, I think around 6th is fair. I think with some additions, because the squad, the league is fairly weak, we can push in and up into the top 5. I think it's very possible. I think it's on the table. And I think that opportunity is there, which is why we have to take advantage of it. But that's where we should be. That's where we need to be. And that's where they feel the squad is at. We're 1 point off of 6th on November 26th. So it's not like there's some massive underperformance versus the value of the squad. Not at all. I would love to see people argue that it's a top 4 squad. I would love to see that argument, because at the end of the day, bar getting caught up in individual games left and right, overreacting to one game positively or negatively, where we end up has to be measured to the relativity of the quality of the squad. This is a squad that finished 8th under Ten Hag 2 seasons ago. And it's a squad that was in 14th last year when Amorim took over and finished 15th. That's the facts. It hasn't been a top 4 team since Ten Hag's first season. So the point being here is that, is it a top 4 squad or not? We can go around about different concepts, different ideas, different opinions. Here's the fact of the matter. What is the quality of a squad? Let's poll it. That's what I want to know from people, genuinely, because nothing else particularly matters, right? I think managers should be sacked. Should they not? Should they depress the value of a squad? If they have a 4th place squad and they're getting 6th and 7th regularly, see you later. If they have a 1st place squad and they're getting 3rd or 4th, see you later. Let's poll it. I'd be interested in poll it in here. Just in here to know what you guys think the quality of the squad is. You look, Isak, Wirtz, the quality there at Liverpool, but they're dropping off. That's correct. And so I look at that, Naveen, right? I look at that and I say, Liverpool have a much higher quality of squad than we do. Liverpool have a much higher quality of squad than we do. And Slot is screwing it up. That's why I think Slot is bottling it. Right? And if you're saying we have a top 4 squad, you're saying we have a better squad than Chelsea, a better squad than Liverpool, a better squad than Arsenal, or a better squad than City. Which one do we have a better squad than? Go on. No, I said we have a choice to challenge for top 5. I've been very specific on that point, that it's very likely to be top 5. Because I think after those 4, we have an argument. But to say we have a better squad than any of those 4, you're nuts. Which one? Because it's definitely not Arsenal, it's definitely not City, and it's definitely not Liverpool. You could make the argument that we have a better squad than Chelsea. You'd still be wrong, but you could make that argument. They have like 65 players, right? So if you did vote top 4, write in the chat for me which one we're better than. Chelsea, Arsenal, City, or Liverpool. Which one do we have a better squad than? That's what I want to know. But look, I think we do have potentially an argument for that 5th-based squad. Our bench ain't top 10. Our starting 11 is probably 5th. Our bench is probably like 15th, but that's that's neither here nor there. I don't think Villa and Newcastle have better squads than us, personally. I do rate quite a few players that we have. You know? City, Pool, and Arsenal have better second teams than our first 11. That's true. They're not going to answer. Agreed, Satyajit. Agreed on that. Yep. Yeah. Better than Spurs. Yeah. Yeah. Look, I think here's where people have voted so far. All right. 5th and 6th, 42%, 7th to 8th, 32%, top 4, 17th. Okay. So 74% have us between 5th and 8th. I put us in that bracket as well. I think we have good quality at the top. I think we have some good defenders, and I think we have some good players, but when you compare the depth of it, it starts to fall off pretty bad. As well. I think that when you look at like Chelsea, for example, if you were to look at what they play with, you could argue the forwards, we have better forwards. I think you could argue like our front three is better than Chelsea's. I think our front three could be one of the best in the league. I think it could be on paper. They need a little more time to gel, but I think it's very, very good. But compare the midfields. Caicedo and Enzo versus Bruno and Casemiro. Are you kidding? We're not even in the same stratosphere. We're just not. We're not even in the same stratosphere. We aren't even having a discussion in terms of quality about that. So, that's why. And then you look at the depth that they have to add to that in terms of other midfielders and people. I mean, they have in Caicedo maybe the best midfielder in the league. It's just like, come on, So that and I don't think they're great. I think they're still about a 4th place team, Chelsea, and I don't think they're going to go above that. But yeah. Either way, the only manager I think that's drastically underperforming with his squad is Slot right now. Quite honestly, like I think he's one of the only managers in the top half of the Premier League. And Eddie Howe too, by the way. Eddie Howe and Slot, I think, are the only two managers right now that I would say, given the quality of their team, they're doing shit. Those are the two that I would say are drastically underperforming. And if I was to put in the top 8 with the big 6, the managers that are drastically underperforming right now, it would be Slot, Eddie Howe. Well, I guess is it 6? Is that 7 now? Huh? And around there. And Thomas Frank is very new in the job, so even though it's not going great, I would still give him more time in that respect. Relative to things, but we'll see. I mean, yeah. So anyway, that's the view on a lot of people. That's the view on a lot of people. Eddie Howe's had key injury problems with his fullbacks, to be fair. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. We have key ownership problems for the last 15 years, to be fair, that have crippled the building of our entire club for a long time. We have a Dallo problem at fullback. I'd rather have the injury problems. Too mean. Anyway, sorry. But yeah, look, anyway, regardless, that's why I don't want to get into it too much. I know where we're measuring. I know what the view of the squad is. I can agree with that. If Amorim can match the quality of the squad, then and achieve with it, good. If not, then he'll be gone anyway. So we don't really have to worry about it. You know what I'm saying? We don't really have to worry about it in that respect. But I do think January is very important. I think we will finish in the 6th, 7th position. I think that's where we will end up when it all shakes out. But with an addition in January, I think we can definitely push into that top 5 because I think we can raise the level of the squad enough with the right players signed to move into that position. So let's get into that now. Let's talk about that now that we're done discussing that. Like I said, the reality is nothing's happening there. So, yeah. Overall, I think the point of Ruben Amorim and the judgment is, does he get us to the level in the league that is equal to the level in the squad? Is he getting out of the team the quality that's there? And that's really based on league position. So let's see where we are as the months go on. All right, let's get into transfers. But if we can improve that quality, I think it will help. I think it will help. All right, tweet that out, and let's go. All right, moving on to the January window and where we are at. So obviously, what if I heard a few things, and then we'll talk about some of the reports that are out there, and then we'll talk about we'll contextualize it a little bit more. Number one, Joao Gomes. As I said, all I'd heard was that there were discussions with the representatives. I had not heard anything about club-to-club talks. Now, there's a lot of reports out of Brazil kind of pushing this forward. But, I don't know if they've claimed that there were discussions between Wolves and United as of yet. There haven't been as of yet. But there certainly have been discussions between United and the representative of Joao Gomes. Nothing is agreed on that front. One of the reasons we're certainly tempering it a little bit, and there's need to take care with this, is what will Wolves sell him for in January? What kind of price are they looking to sell him for in January? And I think a lot of that is going to be certainly predicated on Joao Gomes. Does he push for the move? Are they still in the relegation zone? Things like that are going to matter. So United continue to be in those kind of discussions with the representatives. A lot of the noise, a lot of the push coming from his side. That's not bad. That's probably a good thing, because we're going to need his side pushing a bit in order to move things forward on this deal if we have a chance of getting it done in January. Hello, Stuart. Good to see you, buddy. One window rebuild complete. Yeah. So not a bad thing there. David Ornstein said on Monday during here, let's look at it. There was a little bit more than this, but this is what he said on Monday. There have been reports about Joao Gomes. He says sources around Molineux, now remember, that's Wolves' side, are sort of playing it down. There's been no club-to-club talks at this point. But of course, if Wolves are staring at relegation come January, they might look to cash in on him then. So I took that as actually quite an encouraging update, in my opinion. I think it was very, very encouraging in that respect. I find that to be a very, very good update. For some reason, I think people took that as playing it down, but I suppose that's if you believed that there was like a deal already done between Wolves and United, which I did not believe to be the case. Far be it from that, David Ornstein essentially acknowledged United's interest in Joao Gomes, the possibility that Wolves are going to sell and cash in on Joao Gomes in January, and as well, sort of by omission, that United have had talks with his representatives. No club-to-club talks yet, but certainly talks with his representatives have occurred. Did not play it down from the United perspective as well. He also specifically used it as a segue in talking about other options that United are interested in, like Elliot Anderson, Adam Morton, and Carlos Baleba. So United certainly, absolutely, definitely have an interest in Joao Gomes. This was also confirmed today by Rob Dawson. ESPN says work has also been done to assess Wolves pairs Joao Gomes and Andre, as well as Stiller and Conor Gallagher, in addition to those three main names. Now, I find that very interesting. When we were looking at midfielders beforehand, both Andre and Fab saying United are considering Gomes. I'm telling you, I've been telling you for months we are. But yeah, when we looked at the numbers before, both Andre and Joao Gomes show up quite well. Both a little undersized, meanwhile, they have been playing together in the Premier League for a while, but they are, I wouldn't sign both, of course. I don't think United will look to sign both of them. Me personally, I would lean more towards Joao Gomes. I think Andre is a really good player, but maybe not exactly what we need right now. Stuart, thank you as always for gifting 10 more memberships to the community and supporting the channel as well. Again, there's 10 more people getting memberships to the channel. Thank you so much, Stuart. Always legend of the channel. Thank you so much, my friend. Appreciate it very, very much. Thank you for that. Let's get rid of that one. Spam for crypto can be gone. But yes, yeah, that looks, yes, thank you, Stuart. Thank you very much again. As always, my friend. Thank you. Really appreciate it. So yeah, very, very exciting in that respect. The idea of Joao Gomes. Every Tier 1 has essentially acknowledged now United's interest in him. Remember where you heard it first, though. And that there's something in this. And again, I think the biggest factor in this that could be possible is because he's potentially available in January due to the potential relegation of Wolves. They may have to sell him for less even in summer, and that means they might cash in at a good price in January and look to utilize those funds in order to rebuild the squad and add to something, give them something in January. Maybe they'll need that money for forwards or something. I don't know. But it's a very, very good sign. Somebody shared a really interesting stat to me that I thought was cool, because we were talking about in the past, we've talked about what I personally, maybe it's a slightly educated view, believe that United are lacking in the midfield. One of the biggest problems that I came up with in breaking down our tactics that I've looked at time and time again is how our midfield is obsessed. It's not just our midfield, but we really, really lack carriers of the ball. We really lack dribblers of the ball in our midfield especially. They're obsessed with playing one-touch passes where there's, when we talk about why is the team so chaotic, why is our passing frenetic, why does it always feel so complicated to build up? There's so many instances throughout a game where if we have a midfielder or somebody that can just put their foot on the ball, evade pressure, dribble into the space, and then pass the ball, that it would make for a better option instead of constant one-touch, back, forward, back, and then we end up losing it. Similar to what we see out of the 10s. When we watch Ahmad, 10s and wingbacks, when we see Ahmad, when we see Mbumo, when we see Cunha, what do they do well in terms of helping us? It's not one-touch football. It's the fact that you'll see Mbumo drop deep, receive the ball, turn under pressure, away from the defender, run with it. It opens up space, it opens up gaps, and it frees the team up. The ability to move with the ball just out of the pressure is such a cheat code for everything. And if you look at, of course, the best midfielders in the league and in the world, they usually tend to be players who are just brilliant on the ball. I mean, think about guys like Busquets back in the day. Yes, a good passer of the ball, but the ability to evade pressure on the ball, unbelievable, and such a necessary part of that deeper midfield role, and certainly is a part of what Ruben Amorim would want out of his deeper midfielders. Now, this is where, of course, the argument gets made, correctly so, that Kobbie Mainoo would be a good player for United, a good fit for United, somebody that could do that. And it's interesting that when Kobbie Mainoo did come on, I don't think he had a great game. I don't think he really did anything particularly special, but it was hard to measure it against a different game state against Everton there. He played deeper, he received the ball, he turned, and we were able to progress the ball up the pitch better. Now, whether that was simply because Everton were sitting in, I don't know. Obviously, the concern with Kobbie is, does he have the defensive intensity for that as well? Ruben talked a lot about that, the intensity, second ball winnings, things like that we were losing early on. But somebody showed me this stat. This comes from, it's an interesting one. This is the most press-resistant Big Five midfielders as per ball retentions under high pressure per 30 in possession. Pedri, Bruno G, Unahi, and then you go to the other players, and there you have Joao Gomes sitting at 8th best in the world at receiving the ball and retaining it under high pressures. Okay, just a little bit below Vitinha, so that's a good sign. That's a good sign. A lot of the stats seem to point to the idea that
6 to 7-11 players in the first team are at best squad players. Dorgu, Delict, midfield, Valor, Maz, maybe Sesko. Question is, can we get 5 to 6 new first teamers in the next 2 windows? Also, we need players with
more ball. Yeah, I agree with all of that. Yep. I agree with all that. We need 2 new midfielders, probably 1 center back and another wing back, and we'll get to that in a minute. But yes, absolutely agreed. We need enough first teamers within the next 2 windows to fix that. But yeah, there's a lot of stats that talk about this, but Joao Gomes is one of the better dribbling, one of the better press resistant midfielders in all of football. He certainly has his, you'll notice a couple Brazilians in there, between them. But he is actually quite a press-resistant footballer. But he also brings an extra level of intensity, an extra level of, an extra level of tackling and things like that. But I think it's also very important to note it's in the Premier League. It's in the Premier League, right? That's the point. He's doing it in the Premier League because, yes, Andre, your point to that, I accept. It's not a lie, but it shows the difference in leagues. That's why we do have to measure that. And that's a huge, huge plus for Joao Gomes. He's putting up those kinds of press resistance stat numbers in the Premier League. Wolves play counterattack mostly, no? It doesn't matter because if you look at a stat like that, the point is they play under a high press. And you have to think about that and think, let's say Wolves do play a counterattack. That means Joao Gomes is usually receiving the ball deep while getting pressed, right? Therefore, it's actually even a better measurement of whether he is good in terms of being a press-resistant midfielder. He's a very, very good player. He's a very solid player. And as I've said before, in my view, we need just rebuild the entire thing in terms of the midfield. I wouldn't be unhappy with 4 new midfielders, So, he's a very, very, whether he's better than 2 midfielders we could sign this summer, I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. He's certainly a hell of a lot better than what we have now. He just does a lot better. Could Gomes play next to Bruno, though? Look, my opinion is that nobody can, but that's all relative. Would Gomes be better than what we have presently next to Bruno? Yes. Why not? I don't see why he wouldn't be. He'll bring better in possession traits. He can receive the ball off the back line. He can carry it. He can bring it out of pressure. And he has a lot more legs to cover ground next to Bruno. So I don't see why it wouldn't be better. Like I said, I think Casemiro is better because he lacks legs. He usually out of possession sits deeper, covers the channels a bit more because he has to, because he can't do anything else. That doesn't make it good. You know what I mean? It doesn't make it good. It just means it's better. That was the point I made, is he's our most important midfielder because we have to play next to Bruno. But that doesn't make it good, either way. Who would Gomez' best partner be out of our current options? Probably Kobbie Mainoo, in my opinion. For Ruben Amorim's team, I would like to see Mainoo and Gomez play together because that would give you 2 good ball carriers who can evade pressure and that I think together you could defend well. I think that would be a good partnership. And so it would give me some hope that we might try that and do something like that. You know what I mean? Mainoo can't run. I still think, yes, Mainoo lacks legs, but when I'm watching Bruno, guys, I don't think Bruno can run either. That video... that segment from Everton scared the shit out of me, honestly. And that's where I've gone and said, look, like, again, no disrespect. I really am not trying to disrespect Bruno here. Like I've said for a while, though, he's in decline. He's in decline physically. It's totally and blatantly obvious. He got outrun over 2/3 of the pitch by Gana Gueye in a 9-second sprint by 15 yards. It wasn't even close. 36-year-old Gana Gueye destroyed him in that run. He is declining at a physical level that is just a fact. And it's not like a surprise. It's not crazy. And it's not an insult to his quality as a player. He cannot run the way he used to. And so, unfortunately for that, the solution is also not to put him in the 10. It's not. Because the 10 needs runners. Look at how we struggle without Cunha running. Look at how we would struggle without Brian Mbeumo running. You know? I justify, personally, the inclusion of Bruno over Kobbie Mainoo in that position because they said, I think his out of possession is better. I think it's declined significantly, even over the course of just this season. He's getting slower. It's hurting. The mileage on Bruno's legs is insane. It is insane. It is. And I think that with Kobbie, you get a lot less passing than Bruno, obviously, which is a little bit of a worry, But at the same time, I think that Kobbie is certainly a better dueler out of possession. He'll win more tackles and things like that. I still don't rate necessarily his off the ball and out of possession work as much, but I think if you put him next to, again, somebody like Joao Gomes, not Casemiro, but we haven't even really tried Casemiro, to be fair, but somebody like Joao Gomes who can cover a lot of ground, but is more stable than Ugarte, more consistent than Ugarte, better in possession than Ugarte, then I think the pairing will work better. Because in theory, Ugarte Mainoo is a good pairing. In theory. It should work okay, but there's too much inconsistency in it. So we've seen. If Ugarte was playing like I'd hoped Ugarte would, or the Ugarte that played at Sporting right now, if he was at that level, that pairing would work. But that would be more likely what a similar dynamic that we would see with Gomez and Kobbie. And I think that's a good Gomez. It just hasn't been working that well with what we have at the moment. It just hasn't worked. And I don't think it's because the dynamic is wrong. I think it's just too inconsistent in terms of performance itself. Sometimes the idea is okay.
I think Bruno / Case are played majorly for their eye for hero, world-class pass. That's why our midfield appears so inconsistent. But we're not building towards a structured midfield, which is a worry.
Well, it's an interesting and not a bad point. I agree with you. They're playing for that. But why? What is the problem at this point? Ruben said it before the international break, and I stuck onto it because even as somebody, I think De Ligt has been way better this year. But I, at the same time, said he's definitely not the finished piece there. And Ruben said De Ligt has been getting better, but he still needs to go up another level with his passing. Everton was probably, in some respects, a good wake-up call if you can get beyond raging at the manager as to still what we are lacking in building this. Why do we need passing in the midfield so much? Why are we compromising there? Because I would love to be really, really upset with Ruben about why he's choosing Bruno and Casemiro. Why are we compromising there so much? Well, one of the biggest reasons is, I'm sorry to say, our center backs are scared to pass the ball. It was one of the most fearful performances I've seen out of De Ligt and Yoro against Everton. They were terrified. That's what it looks like. I'm not trying to make an insult on them, but that's what it looks like from the outside, that they were terrified to progress the ball. They were terrified to carry the ball up the pitch. They were terrified to pass, to take any sort of risks. There was one moment I highlighted in that game when De Ligt has the ball and Xerxes drops, Mbeumo drops, Mazraoui's there, and there's 3 ways to pass the ball through. Instead, he goes backwards with a bad pass to Yoro that puts us under pressure. That can't happen. That can't happen. That is That is a big, big reason why we miss Maguire. They're scared to pass the ball. If our center backs can't pass, then the burden of progression gets put on the midfield, and then we have to compromise on the midfield. Why Ruben commented on De Ligt, he said specifically before the break, it wasn't just about De Ligt, he said as we get better and better, as we progress further in his system, in the way that he wants to play, the center backs will dictate the play. The center backs will dictate progression. The center backs will move the ball. The center backs will be the ones doing that. Last year, if you recall,
we either play Bruno up front as a false nine or bench.
I think the Xerxes thing shows to me how much we miss some more natural strikers still. And I think it's also justifies a little bit why he kept picking Højlund last year. You know what I mean? But look, I don't totally disagree with you, but I do think we need a striker, right? But that's the way that we will get. If you remember last year, Lissandro's weaknesses off the ball in big spaces, we lost a lot when Lissandro got injured last year under Amorim. In fact, if you look at like our form, it wasn't amazing. But when Ruben arrived, it wasn't terrible either. We won that, I think it was Fulham. Lissandro scores a goal. He scored a goal against City. He made that against Liverpool. He made that crazy pass to Ahmad. Who are these spamming? Who are these crypto spammers? Sorry, I just don't want that. Anyway, we lost a lot when Lissandro dropped out. He was having a huge impact from center back with his ability to pass the ball. Our drop or crater of form in the league definitely coincided with Lisandro Martinez getting injured. Suddenly we had much fewer solutions in order to progress the ball in getting it up the pitch from the back. Lisandro was aggressive. He was attacking. He was running into the box, scoring goals, making assists, doing all sorts of crazy things. But that's what he is. And that's how valuable he can be. And when we've looked at Sporting center backs, I've gone back and forth because it's what they also do. Inacio, Dibas, Diomande, these type of guys, this is what they're so good at. They're amazing at breaking the lines, at playing, at playing through the lines, at carrying the ball forward, at progressing play from the back. You want a lot of those passes from the wide center backs into the 10s. Ours are scared to make them. Our wide center backs are scared to pass into the 10s. All of the progression is supposed to come center backs into the 10s, into the wingbacks, and up. Our center backs are scared to make that pass. Our center backs are scared to drive through the lines. The only one who does it consistently is Harry Maguire. We miss him a lot when he's not there. I think even if we're not winning games, you see very often Maguire getting up into attacking areas, attacking positions, wide areas, things like that, because he's the only one who's not scared to drive the ball forward and to get into those positions. They were scared to make those passes through the lines. That hurts us. So the whole thing of needing the midfield to dictate play in this system is a compromise because our center backs can't do it, right? So, that's why I look at it and I go, this is unfortunately, this is United though. Sometimes it's been their fault, sometimes it hasn't, but every single manager we've brought in has been forced into so many compromises in the way that they want to play because we just don't build squads that can do it. We're on our way. We're getting there, but it's also about age and things. Lenny Yoro is young and inexperienced. We know with younger, inexperienced players, that's going to happen. And we're going to have to go through these stages where they're struggling. We know that's going to happen. And we have to accept that. So, to me, it's a matter of we'll lose progression in the center backs. We'll lose in the midfield, but we need it from the center backs a lot more. But is it sustainable in the Premier League to build a team with center backs who need to be world-class at box defending and ball playing? There aren't many. There aren't. But you know who wins the league? The ones who have it. It's a fact, isn't it? During Pep's years, how good was John Stones? How good was Ruben Diaz? How good was Company? Look at Arsenal today. Gabriel and Saliba are both world-class at playing with the ball and defending. Look at Liverpool at their best before Van Dijk's decline. Van Dijk, Konate, at their best, they're world-class at both of those things. Yeah, we need world-class players to win leagues. That's the thing. We have to stop compromising. We have to realize that we've spent so many years compromising. Laporte even, was very, very good for City in that respect, right? We need complete midfield. We need complete center backs. Matip, he was excellent. He's so good at playing with the ball and defending. Incredibly underrated in that regard. But yeah, every team. Look, I mean, let's back up a second. Let's back up a second. I'm not saying we played this way, but when we had Sir Alex, we had that level of center backs. Rio Ferdinand is a great ball-playing center back and one of the best defenders of all time. Not to put an insult to Vidic and things like that too, but these were very, very good ball-playing center backs, even in an era that didn't ask for it as much, while also being world-class defenders. Rafael Varane is one of the best ball-playing center backs in football and defenders, and so is Sergio Ramos. So, in fact, I would say that it's a hallmark of every successful team to have excellent ball-playing and defending center backs. Look at the Italians. I know it's gone out of style, but look at those great Italian defenders. Bonucci, Chiellini, when they were at their peak. Complete center backs, right? We make so many compromises. That's where I would say our standards need to be very, very high in building a team moving forward. We should expect our center backs to be elite with the ball and without it. We should expect that. But we've been a team that's been built on compromises for such a long time. And so we get a compromised team. That's the truth of it, in that respect. So I think we'll have guys that will get there. Yeah, Nesta. You could go down the list with the Italians. They had a lot of them, over the years. But all of the great center backs, Puyol, Piqué, all of them, great with the ball and great defenders. You wouldn't say any of them weren't elite with the ball. So yeah, we need that. Their qualities and players, exactly that, right? You need that in terms of elite center backs, for sure. Phil Jones. But yeah, we need that. So when that, and that's why I think we will definitely be going for that type of player in terms of a center back moving forward, and is certainly still one of the targets. But as we do that, we likely will not have to compromise so much on the midfield in terms of the out of possession or, the hero ball, long ball passing, things like that. And that just tells you that the squad ain't finished. And those are the types of compromises we're still having to make because we don't have the players to do what we would intend to do. But I think it's a valuable discussion because I think it really does go under the radar that how much we're compromising in those areas. And, whatever you want to do in terms of criticizing Emram, it's all good. He's pretty honest about things. And he said very specifically 2 weeks ago when all the praise was high for the center backs and De Ligt and all of that. I think that's the important part with Emram. Yeah, he talks down on things when things are bad, but he also he never sits there and takes credit just because we're winning games. He talks about the things we're still not doing right that worry him. And more often than not, he is right. He talked about our inability to play the ball out of the back, that we were still scared to do it. He talked about how we were still afraid to make passes, that the center backs had not gone up a level in terms of passing out the back. It's true. And it's still a big reason why we are where we are and why we have to make these compromises that we have to make in the middle. So it's about building the squad out as a whole. Get more hardworking, intense midfielders. I don't care if you lose a little bit of passing progression. You can play them when we have more passing progression out of the back. And so it all ties in together. All of these things need to be done at the same time, in terms of building the team. It all has to happen. So Gomes is one story that we have there. The next one I want to talk about is Carlos Baleba. This one went a little bit under the radar. But as I've been saying, United have been concerned about the form of Carlos Baleba, and the interest because of that has been cooling. Do they still like him? Yes. Are they still interested? Yes. Is their valuation of him lowered? Yes. And so it makes it less and less likely that they are going to make a deal for Carlos Baleba, because it's more likely that Brighton are going to hold on for a high fee, hope that he turns his form around, things like that. But this was confirmed by David Ornstein in that same video, that United have been put off to a degree by Carlos Baleba's form this season, and you have to. Whether a player is talented, whatever you saw in them, can be totally true, but they have to show it. They have to express it. They have to be able to deal with the pressure, with the lights, with the consistency, and the ability to put that forward on the table and continue an upward trajectory. That's what you want to see, especially when you're buying project players, when you're buying young players. Baleba has so far not passed that test, so I don't think it's just a reaction to a few bad games or form or something like that. But when you're talking about a prospect, an expensive one, who hasn't had a bunch of consistent years of productivity, what they do now matters. What they do today matters. So they've been put off a bit on Carlos Baleba due to his performances this season. That was also confirmed there by David Ornstein, our information on that. He also, by the way, did confirm our interest in Semenyo is still ongoing. So we're still interested. There's still nothing more there. Like I've said many times, I don't want to rule it out, because I just think, yes, are we like likely to get him? No. Yes, is there a ton of competition? Yeah, have things been played down here and there and all of that? Sure. But we're still interested. And I don't know, man. I still have this feeling they might look at that and just try to do something or take advantage of that situation, because it's a very good price for a good player, and I think they might be pushed to make a move for him because the interest is there. So we'll see. We'll see in that respects. We will see. So Gomes, ongoing, I think could be the more interesting option for January, could be the most realistic option for January. Baleba, our interest is coming down. Semenyo, there's still interest there. But also what this means, which we know, is Anderson is the guy. He's the guy. I said that, I titled my video with that a few days ago. He's the guy. He is the one. Anderson, our estimation of him has been going up all season. He's our top target. He's our main focus for the future. He's our main focus for the midfield. He is the guy we want next summer, and that we're going to put all our eggs into that basket. I mean, obviously, there's still months to go. Anything could happen, but right now that is the case. I think Andy Mitten said this on the podcast yesterday as well, Talk of the Devils. He's the guy. And I think that United will be willing to pay practically whatever it takes for that. Seriously. If they want $100 million, fine. We'll pay $100 million. I mean that. He's worth it. I think he's worth it. And I think they probably view him as worth it. And I think that there are going to be multiple clubs that are willing to get close to that figure, to be honest. But United can afford it. They can afford it. So we'll see. They can afford it. We can afford a lot more than that. So, but the fact is, we need to be, remember we were just talking about this point on not like compromising our standards. We're talking about this thing on in terms of center back. Like when we're going for the main guy, it's not about the money. That's the thing that I hope we can get away from. And one of the positives of this potential rule change. Let's stop talking about the money. Caicedo was crazy expensive. So what? Best midfielder in the league today. So what? If they're that good and they are performing at that level, just do it. Enzo was fantastic. in Portugal, and they paid an enormous amount of money. He's a fucking damn good player. Just do it. I'm not saying there aren't overpays. There's ones that I think are crazy overpays, mostly when you're going to certain leagues, like we've talked about in the past, like Verts and things like that. Rice was $100 million. We should have done it years ago. He was worth it. He was worth it. We should have put the money up. We should have paid at any point in time. We should have paid for Declan Rice. Rice, Enzo, Caicedo, nobody talks about it because they're worth that kind of money. That's how good they were. Our problem is always been buying the wrong people. It's not about the money. So as he's performing at this level, he is worth it. So we'll do it. We should do it. It should get done. I think they're willing to. Obviously, there's a hell of a lot of time between now and summer, so we'll see. We just need to do it. I just barring change. If he's playing the way he's playing now through the rest of the season, you just do it. They're all worth it. They revolutionize your team. If we had Declan Rice today, I would be over the moon. If we had Enzo today, I'd be over the moon. If we had Caicedo today, I'd be over the moon. I wish we'd paid the money for them. Forget the money. We missed out on the best talents in the Premier League. It was like Mbumo for 70. So what? It's worth it, man. And look, it's worth it. The best talents in the Premier League are worth the money. They always are going to be. The money is almost irrelevant. If you can get the best players in the Premier League, it works. You know what you're getting. Let's get the best players in the Premier League. That's what we need. That's how you win titles in my book, anyway. Get the best players in the Premier League because that's the league you're playing in. I don't care about the money in that respect. It doesn't matter to me, So that's Baleba. Then there's this interesting story. This comes to us from Ederson's agent. Comes from Lasser, but this is apparently his agent yesterday. Don't know. He says, I believe Atlanta will sell him in the winter or summer transfer window. His contract is nearing its end, and he could leave for half of what Atalanta was asking, between 25 and 35 million. Now, you have to be a little bit wary of agent talks. Obviously, the quotes on this are probably putting him in the shop window. He didn't get that move over to, there was rumors that he'd go to Saudi, but he didn't. Interesting one. At 25 to 35 million, I think Ederson would be a really good addition to the team. Now, I don't get me wrong here. We obviously have to be smart. We don't want to load up on only squad players if we have better targets. So I look at this and I think it again depends on what we're going to do with Bruno and Casemiro. If Casemiro is leaving, if Bruno is potentially leaving, go sign Gomez, go sign Ederson, go sign Anderson, and go sign another one. You know what I mean? But I think it would be Ederson or Gomez, to be fair. I'd be happy with either. I think I would prefer Gomez at this point in time, but Ederson could be an opportunity, could be one not to lose sight of. I quite like Ederson as well. Different to Gomez, though. I certainly personally believe Ederson is more of an attacking player than Gomez. I think Ederson and Gomez together actually makes a really nice balanced pairing, but I don't think Ederson solves all our problems as much as Gomez would help us right now. And from another league, all of that, more of a gamble for sure. Doesn't have the Prem experience. Gomez is a better option. Gomez is a better option. So I would personally lean heavily towards Gomez, but it's just one we should keep sight of because I think Ederson is better than he gets credit for as well. But more attacking, maybe not the right fit like right now. And again, not Prem proven. Could be one of these players comes in and somebody, like Ugarte leaves. That's definitely a possibility in the January window for something like that. You see these mods, by the way, these repeated crypto things. What's with that? That's like 4 today. what are they doing? They're invading. You can just ban them, hide them from the channel if you see them. The carry B1S1 if you guys are here. There's a few of them that have come through, and if you see them, just ban them. If you see any message like that. But Cunha was supposed to be low risk. Cunha's great. I love Cunha. I'm very, very happy we signed Cunha. I think we miss Cunha a lot when we don't have him. I think we miss him loads and loads and loads. Last thing was obviously there was a story then just kind of confirming this, that we've been looking at all of these kinds of midfielders. So yeah, there is that. Let's see what else. And then the last thing that I wanted to speak about right now was the wingback positions, because as I've said, it is a position on their radar. It's interesting. We've gotten these back and forth reports. We've gotten these back and forth reports constantly, with regards to the wingback. As I've said, it's something that is definitely on United's radar, but is also something that they're going to keep an eye on, keep looking at. That is not necessarily a certainty as of yet what they're going to do, but they wanted to see more out of Dorgu. They wanted to see more out of other players, but I would definitely say it's growing from what I'm hearing in its estimation as a potential target moving forward in the summer. We do want a wide attacker. We do want one of those players. I think it'll be the two midfielders, a central center back, and another sort of wide attacking player that I would estimate as a wingback. So there's some more confirmations now that we are keeping an eye on it. And I want to talk about Njai in there, because I think I mentioned it in the last video before this, that is certainly a player we should be keeping an eye on, that United have definitely got an interest in, that I don't think Amram's compliments of him were random. Certainly a player we're interested in, and definitely I hear more and more that it is a position we'll be going for, and more I certainly hear of a strong interest in Njai. Now, there's a lot to happen between now and summer, but certainly a player that to keep a strong eye on. I think he's very, very good, and I think fits very, very well. You look at those Everton wingers. It's funny, we kind of talked about it before. Are they wingbacks and all of that, right? Those wingers at Everton put in more defensive work than our wingbacks, in my opinion. Which is not particularly a surprise with a David Moyes team, and I think makes them ideal fits for wingbacks. Jack Grealish, people laughed when I talked about Jack Grealish as a wingback. Jack Grealish locked down Ahmad in that game with his defensive work. It was insane how good they were, how much effort they put in terms of defending in that game. So yeah, I definitely think that I'm not saying we're buying Jack Grealish, by the way, though, part of me is tempted to think, Destiny, we should have got him years ago instead of Van de Beek. He would have been such a nice fit in our team. He would still be a nice fit today. He's a carrier of the ball. You could play him in the 10s. You could play him out wide. Destiny. No, but anyway. Anyway, Njai would be better, but I would still take Grealish to this day. His revival over there at Everton has been nothing short of impressive, and just goes to show, not a Pep player. Crazy purchase. So, for all that kind of money. So yeah, I would definitely, but Njai is definitely somebody we're very, very interested in to keep an eye on. I think Semenyo, Njai, we're starting to get that kind of list of these wide attackers United definitely do have an interest in and that we should consider. I feel like there was one more name, but Njai, as I'm hearing it, is definitely just someone let's keep an eye on now, how that develops moving forward. Yeah. So that's mostly it. You know, I'm definite in my assessment that we need to make an addition in January and that it's a difference maker. I think that right now we are looking at a team that's going to be inconsistent and has some serious issues. And they're not going to be solved by one player in January. But with those issues and with the talent that we have, I think this is a team that can and should finish in the 6th to 8th positions. I'd be unhappy with 8th. I'd be a little happier with 6th. But I do think with some smart additions, even one, that we could get into the top 5 because it's there for the taking. You know, it's there for the taking. And I think that either a wingback or a midfielder would have a huge impact in that regards. But it seems like a wingback is a better, a midfielder and Gomes might be the more available opportunity. But I would certainly also like to say we need a midfield. We need a center back in the summer, and Gahey still seems to me to fit the bill really well. So I'd like to see us make a move there if we can as well. There were some questions about Jimmy Garner. I still think Jimmy Garner is okay. I think he's a depth player. He's a nice kid, good player, but I don't think he's the level that we need still in adding to that midfield. Yeah. If we could get 2 in, we can get 4th. I wouldn't disagree. I think it's quite possible, honestly. I think it is quite possible. So it's interesting times. I'm definitely leaning more from what I've heard in the last few days towards a January transfer for United. That we'll get one done. I'm definitely leaning more towards that from the people I speak with, that we will get one done than I was before. But which we need badly. I don't know how the next run of games are going to go, my man. I don't know how they're going to go. But I think we're going to win some games people don't think we'll win, and we're going to have some of these off performances here and there. I don't think everything in terms of what we've seen that's good has been destroyed just because we lost a game. But I do think that we have some weaknesses that are potentially very exploitable if we don't make some adjustments here and there. So hopefully we do. I know I've downplayed the Lissandro thing, and it's mostly because I'm trying to not like put too much pressure on him with the injury, stuff like that. You know, it's not because I don't rate Lissandro. It's because of that. I'm really interested to see if he can get on the pitch in some of these games, if and how much it helps us control the ball, control the game, progress play,
Any news
and if
on
we
the
see a difference there.
Front? SJR stake?
Thank you for the question, Aveen. And thank you for being a member. There's nothing I can say right this moment. There are things I want to talk about, but just not right now. But sure, let's watch the space on this, because there are things I'm hearing, but it's such a complex subject. I want to be right in what I inform, if and when I inform something. So for now, let's see. Okay. But we'll get back to that. We will get back to that. Hopefully sooner rather than later. There will be something more that I can say on that subject, because I would like to. Tomorrow, as I said, I will be publishing. I'll record it tonight. I'll record it early tomorrow. There will be no live because it is Thanksgiving. But I will be publishing a video on this change to the financial rules, how United can potentially spend quite a lot more and how hopefully it'll help us finish our team this season, but also how it might help us. It even ties into the ownership, the stadium, and how it might help us with all of that. Yeah, good point, Mr. Miracle. Palace have a game on Thursday to Sunday. They have an away game in the Conference League on Thursday. We've got to show up, man, with full 100% dedication in that game, and I still think we can beat them, especially if Cunha is back. But yeah. All right, guys, I'm going to end it here. I think I've covered everything I want to cover. Thank you all for hanging out with me. Thank you for the gifted memberships, Stuart. Thank you for the donations, guys. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the participation. Thank you for the respectful conversation. Please do smash a like on the video. We've had 400 or 500 people here during the video. 107 likes. Let's get some more on there as you guys head out. Takes just a moment of your time. Otherwise, thank you all. Check out the video tomorrow or before, after, whenever, if you're in the States or if in the UK, whenever. And then I will see you guys all again live on Friday. Okay? Thank you all for being here. I appreciate you very much. Enjoy the rest of your week. Happy Thanksgiving to my American friends and anybody else. And good luck. Have a good one, guys. See you later.